my name is Samuel Atiku. I work with the International Budget Partnership. So generally what I do is, number one, we do research, we do public policy analysis, and then by extension, we typically do mobilizing. Essentially, what we're working towards is ensuring that service delivery challenges are solved, and then we do that by looking closely at the fiscal policies of government and then monetary policy to a lesser extent. Partly, yes, you can connect. You could connect the two. We understand that in Nigeria we have massive illicit funds that are stashed away. Given the fact that criminals, for instance, if you look at bandits, when bandits get ransom money, those illicit funds, you cannot just take those funds to the bank. Of course, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit will most likely get a trigger if they want to do their job, and they will easily identify those people that are core people. All you need to do is to look at somebody's account. Once the person does not have stream of income flowing into it, and then all of a sudden you're depositing slush fund, a massive fund. Of course, it triggers it triggers the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, and they could easily point to you that, oh, certainly you are doing something wrong. So what most criminals have done across the world is actually to take those cash. It's cash money, and Nigeria being a cash-driven economy, and then they stash it somewhere, they keep it somewhere. The same thing with politicians that are corrupt. When they steal money, if you put it in the bank, it's easy to trace you. So most of them will maybe have a room, they put in AC, they stash those cash in there, and then when they need to spend, they go there and then they take and spend. So one of the challenges with this, the CBN law, the CBN's new policy around redesigning the Naira is that most of those storage funds that you've been storing away, if you don't bring it out and take it to the banking system, of course, you tend to lose all your loot, right? So what most people would do is, number one, you cannot take it to the bank. So the best way to actually launder that money, to clean up that money, is actually to buy US dollars. Understanding Nigeria, it's more of we store wealth in Nigeria with dollars, and dollars will always get you things. So most of them have been rushing out with these funds to pick up the dollar cash that we have in circulation, quickly pick it up, push the burden of swapping the money back into, recycling the money into the banking system on the bureau de change that are doing those operations. So yes, to your first question, yes, this could have been a contributing factor. But that said, also, the value of the Naira is not just falling because of this. There are other macroeconomic indicators that are also clubbing the neck of the Naira. And more importantly, I'll call it the irresponsible management of Nigerian monetary policy over the last 5 years. One of the key things you hear is the fact that the central bank had consistently been printing money. Over 22 trillion has been printed between 2016 and now. And that money is actually hot money running after, of course. Those are money created by the central bank. And when you create that kind of money becomes a very powerful hotbed that runs all after assets, of course, usable assets, of which foreign currency, foreign exchange is just one of those assets itself that it runs after. So yes, to your question again, yes, this could be a contributing factor. Well, it depends on the goal that government is setting out to achieve with this policy. Number one, the policy is not going to reduce inflation. Of course, that's a joke. I'm sure the central bank is just trying to pull that down. Inflation has nothing to do with that. Yes, reducing and doing that, you could use it to manage inflation by managing, of course, the exposure. I can get to that later. But the first key point I want to make is that I think this is not economic in nature. This carries more weight when you look at it from the security part. Now, in terms of economy, yes, if you look closely at Nigeria as it were, most of the communities, especially aside from the villages and then you have the big townships, most of the villages, people living at the fringes of society don't have access to banking services. And in fact, if you want to exchange money, sometimes you have to travel to get that done. Most of our farmers living in the country areas, the rural areas, they don't have access to banking services. So the truth is that maybe in the house they've been able to save maybe 10,000 naira. Now the pain of actually having to take that money to the bank, the cost implication itself in terms of the transportation cost and all those things will be telling on them. Of course, they will pay the brunt. And understanding the fact that most of these communities, if you go to the south, northeastern part of the country, you go to the northwestern part of the country, they are battling insecurity. So the context of even going across town to go and swap your little cash that you have into the new Naira note is non-existing, right? It's very difficult. So most of them will typically rely on an agent, more like what you call the POS operators, to give the cash, and then they can go and then help change in bulk. And again, that's contextual also because they are facing security risk. Remember, there's flooding in the country also. A lot of people have lost their means of livelihood, and then the whole community has been torn apart. So when you look at it from the perspective of those group of people, the legitimate people trying to make ends meet, the working poor and the have-nots, yeah, you will say this policy did not put them into consideration, given the short time window that they have to do all these things. But on the flip side also, again, I mentioned around the security, if you look at the bandits, Boko Haram, ISWAP, and all those people, they've been recruiting, of course, they've been recruiting people into the armies, and the only way you can recruit people and pay them is when you use cash. So if you have to take out their armory, which is the big stock of cash that they've actually stored away, and you can suck it out, you can suck it in, of course, you're actually denting you're denting one of the instruments that they've been using to recruit in the country, which could be seen as positive. But that said, I think it's important to clarify this. One, when you look at money, money is defined as any item that you can, or record that you can use to purchase goods and services. So the definition of money in that sense predicts and is bigger. Now, in every economy like you have in Nigeria, you have two types of money. There's the money that is created by government, and there's the one that is created by the deposit money banks. I know this will sound strange to people. That how come banks, and what am I talking about? When you hold your cash in your hand and it's carrying the emblem of the federal government, the Central Bank of Nigeria, it's carrying their logo and all those kind of things. That's the money that is created by government. Now, imagine hypothetically, you have just one bank in Nigeria, and that bank is called Bank A. And in the whole of the economy, I happen to be the only one that have 1,000 naira. And I walk up to Bank A, I deposit 1,000 naira. What Bank A will do to me is to enter in its computer that I have a deposit of 1,000 naira. I've made a deposit of 1,000. That means I have deposited 1,000. So the record is just that I am holding 1,000 naira. So that's the record I run around. Now, if another person walk up to that same bank and say, borrow me 1,000 naira, borrow me 1,000 naira, and Bank A gives the person 1,000, Bank A will not necessarily hand over 1,000 naira cash that I've deposited in the bank. It will also press on his computer that, okay, I've given you 1,000 naira, I've credited your account with 1,000. So in my own account, I have 1,000. In the second person's account, based on the loan that you have gotten from Bank A, there's 1,000. And in the vault of Bank A, there's also 1,000 naira note, which is that cash. Now, in the entire economy that I've described, we have 3,000 naira. That's what we call the money multiplier effect. So the money that is artificial, that is created by the bank, is the 1,000 naira record that I am holding. Remember, it's not money, it's just a record. And the other person that took a loan of 1,000. But the real money in the economy, which we call base money in economics, is that cash money that is underpinning those transactions. So if that cash, that 1,000 naira disappears from the economy, the artificial money that we are talking about, that we are all boasting around that we have, becomes insignificant. And that's why managing base money is one of the biggest instruments in controlling inflation. And that's what the central bank is doing. If you see the central bank announce the CRR rate, the cash reserve ratio, what they're essentially saying is that, oh, you cannot create artificial money without having this percentage of the money. So again, to your question, if peradventure the central bank is trying to take out the base money, it wants to keep a contact record of how many base money it has in circulation that is not connected to illicit transactions. It's a good way to manage the fundamentals of an economy, but it doesn't change anything significantly. So that's just the point I wanted to make.